Yo, yo, yo. Welcome to NS9 Live, presented by FanDuel. I'm your host, Anthony DiNardo. To my right is Dougie Fresh, and to my left is Alex J. Stumpf. What's up, fellas? How you doing tonight?
Doing good. We're at the Cut. This place is fantastic. We love it. So I couldn't be happier.
Yeah, I got to add to that. So, again, I was jealous seeing that you guys – this is your second time, so I'm really jealous about you now. But I saw week one crew was here, and the food looked tremendous. So, of course, I was like, hey, guys, can we come back? They're like, of course. So, first off, shout out to the Cut for welcoming us back for the second week here. And, yes, I got to experience the food, and it's fantastic.
They're so nice. The service is outstanding. The food is great. It's unbelievable. We're in a world that customer service doesn't really exist anymore, and these people are fantastic.
Absolutely. What's your thoughts on the food?
I liked it.
But so we have some like breaking news, I guess, to put on here. And we were getting ready for this show. I mean, I felt like all day we're talking about what should we talk about tonight? Because that's like the gift and the curse about being here for 2 weeks for spring training when you're doing Bucko Brew in the morning and it's not live at night. A game, a pregame show if you made before, then a wrap up. I mean, there's that times doing 2-3 shows a day. What do you talk about that's different? And, you know, we thought about it's like, you know what, let's kind of revisit all the moves that happened this offseason. And like after 2 weeks of seeing spring training, like what we think about that. But then Ben Cherington said, hold up, guys. We're going to give you some news. So thank you, Ben. We have something to talk about.
It's the winner of Ben.
It is the winner of Ben. So Kyle Nicholas was traded to the Reds. And I thought, who better to bring on, right? Alex is right here. Let's talk to Alex about this trade. So, yeah, the Pirates swing a trade with the Reds. They send Kyle Nicholas to them, and they get back a second outfielder, third baseman maybe?
Yeah, infielder, outfielder mix right there. Left-handed hitter, which has been kind of the MO this entire offseason. Some offensive output, I mean, and potential too.
What's his name?
Tyler
Callahan. There we go. I couldn't remember.
I'm sure about Callahan. Only 90-something% on Tyler.
It's Callahan.
You're throwing me off my rhythm here,
I am
Dougie.
sorry there, Alex. We haven't mentioned his name yet.
It is Tyler Callahan.
There we go.
Or is it Callahan?
Callahan.
Tyler, we get a confirmation on the last name here?
I did not get confirmation.
We haven't been the best over this past week.
No, but this is someone who I think is going to factor into the infield mix, maybe even third base, which is something that, you know, they looked to add this offseason, didn't really do until this point, assuming that he is going to be part of that mix. Can play the right side of the infield, can play some outfield. Like I said, some upside offensively from the left side of the plate. Probably not the most amount of homers, but, you know, double some pop in the mix there. So I could see the appeal here. I would be lying, though, if I expected Kyle Nicholas to be traded right now.
Okay. Yeah, so, I mean, let me ask you my first question on this, because, like, when you see it, now, I've never been high on Kyle Nicholas as it is. And obviously the way this bullpen's shaping up, seems like he was on the outside looking in anyway. So, I mean, you can understand why they're looking maybe trade him away in some degree, like if there's something that can fill in. But when I look at, like, what he was traded for, I don't know. Again, I'm kind of looking, of course, just Fangraphs right away, right? Like, who is this guy? And you're not seeing a whole lot of pop. I mean, he's 25, going to be 26 this year. Is this what you utilize, you know, Kyle Nicholas for? I mean, is he true actual depth, or is this just like another guy? It's like, you know, hey, we like this guy. I'm not sure if it's this team. I'm not sure whether the talent's truly there, but, you know, this is a team that does need depth at third base or around the infield for sure. So, I don't know. I mean, what's your first take on this?
I mean, I think you nailed it with, you know, you need depth in the infield for sure, especially on the left side. Like we've talked so much about, you know, will Connor Griffin make the opening day team? What if he doesn't? What if he doesn't? Like, what if he just, I mean, he's looked great so far, but if he doesn't, or, you know, for whatever reason, you don't have a lot of options before this trade. You had like Triolo, you had Nick Gonzalez, who I did not want to see every day at shortstop. I don't think he could really do the position well so this adds a little more depth, adds a little more either in AAA depth, or if you do call up Connor to start the year. And if you don't call up Connor, it's not as dire and thin a situation as it was before. But there's so like I see the appeal there, and also even if he's got to play like third base. Like that would be a good platoon partner potentially for Triolo, who has crushed left-handed pitching but has struggled against right-handers. So if you want to go that route, there's that option there. I could see a couple different ways where he could make an impact with this team. And as for Kyle Nicholas, like you said, I mean, like I figured he was going to kind of be on the outside looking in to start the year just because they have some other guys they like in the bullpen. I figured he was going to be some form of up-down to start the year. Not saying that, you can't just stay up at some point. Like someone like Isaac Matson's a good example of an up-down guy who just showed like, no, he's just up. But I think we all know the stuff is there, but the ERA hasn't been. So like if you could sell relatively high to another team that values that type of arm that the Pirates do, like you got to explore it.
Yeah, no, for sure. I appreciate that. So you make some good points here because, again, like Kyle Nicholas, I know he has enticing stuff, right? But he's never really put it together. So, right, you're getting this guy. There's some depth. Now, you're putting this Connor Griffin, what if he doesn't start into the ethos? I don't like that. I don't like that. Let's not speak it into existence, but I understand it.
You have to assume.
I get it.
There are 100 different reasons why he could. There are 100 different reasons why he couldn't.
Sure. So again, in this world that I don't live in, that does exist, and it's out there that Connor Griffin does start off in AAA, which again, like you can make that argument. I understand. I don't agree, but I guess this does that but in that scenario, what do you think transpires then? Like, do you foresee this is like a Nick Gonzalez as shortstopping starting off, or is this maybe like, hey, this situation where Jared can now take over short, and maybe this is happening at third base?
I mean, just pure speculation. I would think it would be more likely Jared plays short. Like we haven't seen Callahan play short in a professional game before. And like even then, he's played like one game at third base since 2022. So like it's just based off of what I believe, and just a couple texts shot out. Like I think he is going to be a potential candidate for third base right there. We don't know for sure though right now, but even if he's just going to stick on the right side, that's more depth. That gives you more flexibility on how you want to deploy, Nick Gonzalez, how you want to deploy maybe like Spencer Horwitz or someone like that. So there are ways that I could see him fitting into this team. The positional flexibility is only a plus.
Sure. And again, man of the people, Doug, I mean, what was your first thoughts on this?
Well, I had hoped that Bill Murphy could get a hold of Nicholas and make something out of him, but I really didn't expect that. They seem to be putting together a nice bullpen, and they've done that now the last, say, year or two. I don't know much about Nick Callahan. He seems like a Ben Cherington special. We're getting a guy that played second base most of his career, and we're going to put him in a different position because that's what we like to do. He's going to play some outfield. He's going to, maybe play third base. I imagine he's probably not going to have a lot of impact. I also imagine that Nick Gonzalez and Nick York don't like the idea of this trade. It's more competition for them. And sometimes they like the shiny new toy more than what they have in front of them. So, hey, look, the kid can run a little bit. It's always nice to have some speed. He does have a little bit of pop in there. I don't care who produces as long as they produce. I don't want to get too attached to we've had a lot of sort of middling players and we're like, oh, this guy, how can we let him go? Oh, we let him go because he's not very good. And that's kind of the situation, I think, with Kyle Nicholas, right? Great stuff. But I mean, there's a million baseball players that we said have great stuff that you don't remember his name anymore because he never wasn't able to do anything.
Shout out to the 2021 Pittsburgh Pirates.
Right, exactly. I mean, there's more to it than great stuff. There's more to it than exit velocity. I know you guys don't agree with me. You actually have to translate it into production. And Kyle Nicholas hasn't been able to do that. And hopefully Tyler Callahan. No, I think he's the son of Tommy Boy. I think it's Tyler Callahan. He was in the brake business and got into baseball.
Yeah. So again, I think that's all valid. I'm interested now. You mentioned the kids again. I don't really know much about him. I'm setting up as the trade happened. You talk how he got injured, broke his arm, I believe, running into the outfield wall last year. So
arm forearm. Yeah.
Right. So is there again? When I look at it, the first glance is you look at the numbers; they're not fantastic, and it's 25, going to be 26. Is this something more of he probably was going to see the big leagues last year and get a lot of run or something because of the injury? That's what derailed it, or
Yeah, the injury, I think it's safe to say he would have gotten a lot longer run.
Yeah.
In Cincy if it not been for that.
Okay. And again, like you were talking, that was a playoff team. This wasn't just like the run-of-the-mill team that, he was going to see some action again, a little bit late, but so maybe there is something there with this.
Yeah, like I said, not to sound like a broken record, I do see upside here. Like I know what you said, like the numbers aren't the sexiest, but it was like a 126 WRC plus in 2024, like a 150 something in his month in 2025 before he got called up. Like, I'm not saying that's setting the world on fire, but he wasn't overmatched at the highest level of AAA, and then comes up to the major leagues and busts his ass trying to make a play. Like I can't fault a guy for that. So
and he did mention too, like he was the number 20 prospect,
19 or 20, yeah. So like it's not like this is a waiver wire. This is I don't get Josh Van Meter vibes.
Okay,
from this.
That's fair.
Yeah, that's to put it as blunt terms as possible because
shout out to the 2021 Pittsburgh Pirates.
2022,
my bad.
Yeah.
Where's first base? I know it's here somewhere.
But okay, so, and again, we're talking about a reliever that probably was going to make the club anyways with the depth, though there is some stuff there. Like he is a guy that I think a lot of pitching coaches in baseball will say, like, let me get my hands on him and I can fix Kyle Nicholas.
Oh, for sure. But at the same time, you have to recognize, what if he doesn't do it here? And are you servicing your team the best just with that, hoping that he does? Are you servicing the player the best? Just hoping that it all comes together. So I do see a scenario where Kyle Nicholas would have been really good in Pittsburgh and he would have been a good part of the bullpen. But like Doug said, we've seen a lot of guys who have great stuff that just can't bring it all together. And at this point of his career, he kind of fell into that camp. So if you can cash out and get someone who could contribute at a potential position of need, who has offensive upside, you have to seriously consider that trade. And that's what they did here. Okay.
Yeah, and I guess my thought, maybe Doug input on this too. I mean, again, you're talking about Kyle Nicholas. He's probably just depth. But, and you've talked about Antoine. I mean, you've talked, we had you on the point, I think. You've talked about Antoine Kelly, Wilbert Otel. We mentioned them on Buckabrew. Like, there is some depth out there. There's not a whole lot of depth on the left side of the field next, So I guess maybe you kind of look at this like it's kind of like depth for depth. I mean, is that how you kind of perceive this maybe too?
Yeah. I think what we've seen from Urquidy and Clevenger, it's like we may have some bullpen arms, right? I mean, someone's a fifth starter, someone's in the bullpen. Right. And then maybe they really like what they're seeing from Benoit, which we've liked. Montgomery. There are some guys there that could step right into the Kyle Nicholas role. So yeah, like I said, they're putting together what looks to be could be a very effective bullpen. And you're right, we've not been getting production from the left side of the infield. If you get someone with a little bit of upside, I think it's a good trade. You take a chance. They don't all work out, but the idea behind it, I think, is right. It's the winter of Ben. Right, we've traded a name we're familiar with, and a guy who, again, we've somewhat been tantalized about the potential. For someone we don't know much about, but it seems like a very low risk move to me, right? We're not counting. No one said that Tyler Callahan's going to come in. He's going to start at third base, and we're expecting 30 home runs and 100 RBI.
That's fair.
We've just added another guy, throw into the mix. I wish I could stay another week and maybe see him play.
The only real risk I see is with just the bullpen depth, because whenever we talked on the point, whenever we just talk in general with this bullpen, I think a lot of people feel good about a couple pieces here, but you're also counting on someone has to emerge and take that next step. And like Kyle Nicholas was one of those potential guys. Ryan Harvin was one of those potential guys, and he's hurt right now. So you're kind of, you still have plenty of potential lottery tickets here, and you only need one or two to hit, to really be in a really great spot. But it is one less one.
Sure. Okay. Yeah. I guess to me, I'm kind of this too. Like when you see it, I wasn't that high on Kyle Nicholas to begin with. I don't know much about this guy. He doesn't look that sexy, but again, like it's depth for depth in my eyes. You gave someone who had, you had some depth to some level, right? To get some depth out of the position you don't have. They didn't really strike anything at third base. So like it is go be Trillo heading in here.
Yeah.
Probably if Connor Griffin starts, and if not, it gives him options at third base still. So, all right, I think that's fair enough. And I just want to say again, before we let you go here, Alex, I mean, you're down here. been 3 days about-ish, right?
Yeah.
So how's spring training going for you?
It's good to be around the ball club, see some players, see some coaches. Different vibe than last year. It's got we're just talking like the Pepsi test here, of seeing it, but like vibes seem pretty good this year. So,
well, that's good to hear, because again, that's something that like we've been hearing, and not even just hearing, but also like physically taking in as well. You've seen.
Like I said, I've been down here almost 2 weeks now. I'm seeing it. It is dramatically different than it was last year. That does not necessarily translate into wins, but I've become more optimistic based on what I've seen. Baseball's a long 162 game grind. And if you're feeling good about it going in rather than, your head dragging, that sort of thing, I think they can only help. It certainly can't hurt, right? That people are feeling a little more optimistic. They're feeling a little better, a little more excited about what's going on. And yeah, I'm buying in. I'm getting sucked in. Every year I try to tell myself to, dial it back and slow your roll, all that sort of thing. But we added 3 actual hitters and a 4th in Mangum, right? And it looks, again, we can get on with other stuff, but Garcia, I like what I'm seeing. And the way the team is produced, March 4th, and still the guys that you want to see hit, except for maybe Henry Davis, the guys that you want to see hit are hitting, right? Like Jake Mangum looks like he's going to be an impactful player, and so does Lowe, and so does O'Hearn, and so does Ozuna. And Brian Reynolds looks better, and Oneil Cruz looks better. I mean, hey, I'm enjoying every minute of it. It is much different than last year, where it was a hospital waiting room. I think Tyler said it was a morgue. It didn't seem like anybody wanted to be here last year except us. So
sounds like Doug's Pirates pilled.
He bought into the winter.
He bought in. Yeah, he bought into the winter.
The winter of Ben. Yeah, I got to trade my period full stop shirt for winter of Ben shirt. Right?
but no, it is nice to hear from your perspective. Again, here's our perspective. You're certainly in the thick of things from last year and beyond. And so you coming back to spring training this week, feeling some different vibes. It's good to hear that perspective as well. Before I make the switch off and let you go ahead and enjoy the cut some more with their fantastic food and drinks, any last words you want to say?
I'm intrigued by the trade. We're going to end with that. We're just going to end with I'm not saying good trade, bad trade. I'm intrigued by it.
All right.
Benoit Blanc, it compels me, though.
All right. Well, appreciate you coming on. A little word from our sponsors, and we'll have Nate back on, and we'll talk about the vibes about spring training, and I'll look back at these trades. So
this episode is brought to you by IQ Bar, our exclusive snack hydration sponsor. IQ Bar protein bars, IQ Mix hydration mixes, and IQ Joe mushroom coffees are the delicious, low-sugar, brain and body fuel you need to win your day. The Ultimate Sampler Pack is a great way for you to try all IQ Bar products and flavors. You get 9 IQ bars, 8 IQ Mix sticks, and 4 IQ Joe sticks. All IQ Bar products are clean label certified and entirely free from gluten, dairy, soy, GMOs, and artificial ingredients. With over 20,000 5-star reviews and counting, more people than ever are fueling their lifestyles with IQ Bar's brain and body boosting bars, hydration mixes, and mushroom coffees. The Ultimate Sampler Pack includes all 3. My personal favorites so far have been the almond butter chip and the iced tea lemonade hydration mix. It's just really full of flavor. I love starting my day with it, and I couldn't imagine starting my day with anything else other than IQ Bar products. Right now, IQ Bar is offering our podcast listeners 20% off all IQ Bar products, including the Ultimate Sampler Pack, plus free shipping. To get your 20% off, text MLB to 64,000. That's MLB 64000. Message and data rates may apply. See terms for details.
And we're back. So we got Nate back on with us. So you're making your NS9 Live debut basically right here as well, right?
I guess so.
He's like, I guess so. But so now you've been here for this week as well. Doug has been here for the week and a half, almost 2 weeks. I've been here last weekend, now this week, and again, I get it. Like it's almost 2 weeks of spring training. I mean, spring training numbers don't matter to begin with, right? And certainly as we keep phrasing everything of like, well, it's only February 28th. Well, it's only March 3rd, right? I know these numbers don't matter too much, but we're starting to see some sample. we're starting to see some production. And, since we talked about Connor Griffin 38 times in the last 13 days, maybe we could talk about something different. We kind of collaborated. It's like, why don't we kind of revisit these moves? And now that we're seeing them in motion, you're picking up on the vibes. Let's kind of talk about that. And, the first move was making the trade with Boston for the password, right? And I know we all talked about it. It's like, well, this can't be the answer. I don't hate the trade itself, but it can't be the answer, which, of course, it wasn't.
Right.
But I know there's a couple of people here who want to talk about him specifically. So I'm going to give you two the floor. Let's start with Doug.
Right. The biggest reason that we weren't through with that trade is because it was the first move of the offseason, right? And we're being told we're going to the playoffs, period, full stop. We're trying to win this year. We are going to spend more money this year. And then we trade, a guy that I expected to start the, season in the rotation, Johan Oviedo, a guy we all liked a lot, a guy who had done quite well here, for a minor league outfielder. So and then it was a minor league outfielder that had some contact issues, and just like, oh, here we go again. We've got another outfielder, another player who can't hit, and so I was I don't want to say I was down on the trade. They had to add stuff. They had to get in some people other than G1 Bay and Jack Sawinski, So I wasn't really down on it, but I wasn't that enthused about it. Then as we made these other moves, you're like, okay, now, all right. So now he's not just being handed a starting job. Now he has to earn his spot, that sort of thing. And he's impressed me more every time I've seen him. He is a good baseball player. He's making good contact. He's got some pop. He can run. He fields the positions well. He's thrown a runner out. He couldn't do any more than what he's done so far. And so, now my question about him isn't, can he play? I don't think he's going to languish in AAA all year. He's going to get opportunities here. It's going to be challenging, right? Because he's up here, you want him having bats. You don't want him in the Alexander Canario row and he starts once every 10 days. And you obviously have Reynolds, Cruz, O'Hearn, and Mangum. So, the only way that he gets up here is, probably if somebody gets hurt or somebody becomes very effective, and because you want him getting really consistent at bats. But yeah, I like that. I'm more on board with the trade. I'm going to miss Oviedo this year. I know I am. I'm going to miss, and we'll talk about him later, Mike Burrows. Those are two guys that I had high hopes for this year. But from what I've seen from the trade so far, Jhostynxon Garcia is a good baseball player. He seems to be putting in the work. He's got all the raw skills, and just going to keep working at it. And I can see him improving and being better, and I can see him playing for the Pirates for a long time.
So let me pass it over to you. And before I do, I think it was valid. And Tyler, I felt, was like the forefront of this. He's the one that actually made the graphic on Instagram, got some reception with that, good and bad. But I think it's fair to say, this trade could, of course, end up being good for the Pirates. Like, it could absolutely be good for the Pirates. But I think the question is it going to be good for the Pirates in 2026? Go back to Doug said, Oviedo, I think there's a lot of hopes for Oviedo. He could be a workhorse. The injuries derailed him, but he has the body. He could certainly be a workhorse for a team that needs someone to give him innings. I think there's upside for him. And again, he's in the rotation this year, where Garcia, he was a prospect and he still has to develop. And, is he going to even start on the opening day team? So there's a lot of thought of does this trade actually even help 2026, or is it just a future thing? I think you have some interesting takes. You definitely want to talk about Garcia. So give us your thoughts and feedback on that as well.
Yeah, I really like the trade, and I still do. I think Johan Oviedo was a great addition to the pitching staff to have. But of all the pitchers you could have traded at the time, he was probably the top of my list just because the injury history.
Okay.
And something that he has dealt with and in lack of innings last couple of years because of that. Now, Jhostynxon Garcia, when he was traded to the Pirates, was a top 5 prospect in the Red Sox organization and a top 100 in MLB. So I was like, we just got a top 100 player, I guess it is, for a pitcher that has been injured multiple times. Fine with me. Now, here's the question with Jhostynxon Garcia after all these moves, where it's I know Tyler brought this up, saying you traded pitching depth at the time. We didn't know the other moves were going to happen.
Right.
We didn't know Brandon Lowe was happening. We didn't know Burrows was getting moved. But at the time, you traded probably
least of that pitching depth that you can maybe afford to move.
How dare
For
you?
and I liked Oviedo too. Don't get me wrong.
Sure.
But he was the pitcher that I think I was most comfortable with moving this offseason rather than Burrows, because I kind of like the upside of Burrows more so than Johan Oviedo.
Okay.
But with Jhostynxon Garcia, I like his upside. I know Jim was really kind of 50-50 on him because he had some strikeout concerns in the minor leagues. I personally don't care about that because like he has been really fun to watch this like spring training, and my vibes on him were already very high when the trade happened. But seeing him, he's hitting 538 in spring right now. Now, sure, it's only 2 weeks. Don't get me wrong, 2 weeks. But this is also best shape of his life here. By the way. So as you told me yesterday,
What about the hair though?
yeah, it's great.
Okay.
I got a good picture of him too.
All right.
Sitting behind home plate yesterday. But it was funny, like you told me yesterday, like your password pill. I got Cody password pill too. Because here's the question I have to ask about Jhostynxon Garcia. If he rakes this spring, still hits very well. If he hits better than Jake Mangum, for example, I don't want him going to AAA just so he can get the reps. If he's good enough to be on the team, he should be on the team. He should get that opportunity because he clearly, like the Red Sox had that outfield jam. People were like, he's going to get more opportunities in Pittsburgh.
Right.
You had Roman Anthony, you had Wilyer Abreu, you had Rafaela. Where was he going to play? Now you come to Pittsburgh, there's more opportunities. It's a not great defensive outfield right now besides Jake Mangum. You have O'Hearn, you have Reynolds, you have Cruz, and of course Mangum's your fourth outfielder. But per se, Jhostynxon Garcia hits better than your Mangums, hits better than some of these guys that maybe take a bench spot. Like you brought up Billy Cook before we even started. Like I'd rather have Jhostynxon Garcia on the roster than a Billy Cook. I like the higher upside, but the question is with Garcia, and I understand the premise is like you want him to get the reps.
Yeah,
And
right.
that's what
I agree with you.
It's a very weird situation they put themselves in with him.
I'd rather have Garcia on the roster than Billy Cook too. But if he's only going to, get one start every 10 days, and if he's only going to pinch hit once or twice a week, I would rather have him AAA honing his craft. So there's all sorts of reasons why the better, more talented player doesn't make the roster. Much to do with options, much to do with him getting his reps and developing his game. So right. Look, they got some tough decisions ahead of them, and I'm excited about that because they haven't had a lot of tough decisions. They've handed jobs out to whatever body was there, and kept running it back with the same guys who have had 700 plate appearances, kind of proved that they couldn't hit. So yeah, I mean Garcia looks terrific. He really does. And to me, again, with the age of some of the guys and the like Oneil Cruz, he could sit twice a week against the lefty. It wouldn't be the end of the world. So there's some at bats right there, right? O'Hearn is going to play some first base against left-handers. There's some at bats. I mean, it seems to me that you could get creative. Brian Reynolds gets a game off every week. He gets a game at DH every week. There are ways that Donnie Kelly could find at bats for both Mangum and Garcia. And if they can hit, right, those are your defense is improved. So there's lots of ways. I hope they find ways to play him. I hope he continues what he's doing in spring. I hope it's for real, and I hope we get to see it in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I want what's best for Password because I'm a big fan of what he can do. And if it is going to AAA, it's going to AAA. Because at the end of the day, that's where definitely the reps are going to be. But at the end of the day as well, if he's if you're stuck between Billy Cook or Garcia, I'm taking Garcia. But at the end of the day as well, that's probably your fifth outfielder at that point. It's a very weird situation that they have put themselves in. And I want to add the point with Garcia. I don't like the trade just now for this year. I like it for the future. Because I think he could be a very big piece for next year's team if there's baseball or 2028's team, by the way. I think he could be a very interesting piece. And I like the upside. Sure, the swing and miss needs some adjustments, but I like what he can do with the power. I like he can add power. Like Doug brought up, I'm more optimistic about the hitting than I ever have been before. And that's without Garcia seeing much major league time. It's not just him. It's the other stuff they've done as well.
Yeah.
Don't we sort of say everybody has some swing and miss issues now, right? I mean, that's baseball now.
Yep.
Almost everybody strikes.
Pretty much, unless
right. I mean,
you're like lose our eyes.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's there's a lot of guys. The Pirates team is filled with guys that have some swing and miss issues.
But to your point, most teams That's the new age baseball.
Right. That's the way. I mean, we had G1 Bay swinging for the fences. If nothing ever made less sense to me than that, like that guy should have been forced to bunt every time he came up, but we had him swinging for the fences.
But he also couldn't bunt. So.
Yeah, right. Exactly. He had swing and miss issues. He
had a lot of issues.
He had a miss issues. I think it didn't matter swing or not. So yeah, it's again, I don't want to have a team full of 200 hitters either. So
sure. No, all fair for sure. And again, like I guess to wrap this up too, like I do agree with you. Like I do like this trade, especially for the future. I think the question is, does it help now? But like you mentioned, you want what's best for Garcia, and like to Doug's point, I think what might be best for Garcia is to continue his development, getting those everyday at bats. Maybe not getting the once or two a week and a potential like pinch hit here and there. Yeah. So like, is the answer the Billy Cook? Probably not either. Me personally, I think the perfect answer is Andrew McCutchen.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how you do it, right?
That's
Passwords in AAA, getting his reps. You have Andrew McCutchen here and the major league team getting those at bats. As you're not worried about his.
I believe he's on a
development.
plane to Florida right now.
He's 30,000 feet above right now.
He's on his way.
Just circling, just forever circling.
He's waiting to land.
We saw Bob Nutting yesterday. He looked like he was looking for Andrew McCutchen. I'm not sure he was scanning the plays. I get the feeling he was looking for Andrew McCutchen.
All right.
Ben
Period,
hadn't
full
told
stop.
him yet that he didn't sign him.
But let's go ahead and move over to the Rays trade. So like that was the first, that was the impactful, that was like okay, you know what? They're not going to sell us on Garcia being the move. We really like this prospect. He's going to be the answer, right? It was like, hey, you know what? You got Brandon Lowe. That's a headliner. That's a guy who had 30 home runs last year. Middle infield, second baseman.
All-star last year.
All-star, right?
Yep.
But then you also got Jake Mangum, who, I mean, like the best way I look at it is he's not going to be Brandon Lowe. He's not going to help carry this offense, but he raises that floor. He's not going to be the guy that's hitting 40, 50% below league average. He'll hover around that. He plays good defense, all three spots. Some of the Pirates can use. He just does all the little gritty things that you like on there. And then they also get this Mason Montgomery guy who's a pretty enticing pitcher. Everything we said about Kyle Nicholas, like to the next level.
And he's
Obviously, he has to hone in and stuff,
Mm-hmm.
but there's that enticing stuff that you feel like you can work with. So, I think we all liked that trade at the time. Now, you did give up Mike Burrows, and that was the other thing. Now you're getting up two pieces in that rotation. So it's getting a little interesting now in that sense, but all three of those guys are looking pretty good so far as well.
I loved Mike Burrows. I was driving the train, and this is a good trade, right? This is a good trade. This to me is one of Ben's better trades. Typically, we're the one that give up three people and get one guy back. The Oviedo trade, or on and on. There's a bunch of them, a history of them.
Spencer Horwitz.
But the Spencer Horwitz,
Which had worked out well, though, too.
and it looks really good now that.
Well,
now that he has
for other
now that Spencer
circumstances.
does not have a gambling problem. But you got. Simple. Quite simple. What did we get out of second base last year? It wasn't a positive WAR. Right, we're going to get a positive WAR out of second base this year. Brandon Lowe is good. Brandon Lowe has power. Brandon Lowe has played in big games. Brandon Lowe's a hitter. He's an all-star. And so, he's going to help. But then, he might only be here for 1 year. But then you've got what looks like could be a lights-out reliever. And Jake Mangum is going to impact this team in positive ways throughout. We've watched him a bunch of times, get a hustle double, steal, throw somebody out in the outfield, run balls down. And I'm telling you, I have new respect for anybody that can catch a ball in that outfield. That win plays havoc with it. And you want to talk about vibes. He's captain vibes. Jake Mangum.
Well, it's the mayor.
Yeah,
There's reasons, right? You're catching on to that.
He was called the mayor, and I was offended because Sean Casey's the mayor. And
Right.
then he came into town, and I met him, watched him with the fans, and I'm like, he's got my vote. I'm ready to handle his campaign. I'll be the campaign manager. He seems like a terrific guy. So this is a good trade. At least two of the guys are going to have positive, and I get the feeling all three of them that are. This is not a trade for the future, although it will help in the future with the two younger guys. But this was a trade made to help this team right now, and I think all three guys are going to help this team right now. It's improved this roster. It's improved the depth in the lineup. we haven't had hitters. We have not had a hitter like Brandon Lowe during the Ben Cherington era, except 1 year of Brian Reynolds.
Yeah.
Right. And again, there's, to me, what I kind of love about adding these guys is what it does for the guys that were here last year. How much better I think it's going to make Cruz and Reynolds, and Spencer Harwitz, that sort of thing. I mean, we're watching these spring training lineup comes up and it's like, oh, look, the first 6 and 7 guys can hit in this lineup. We have not seen that at all in the Ben Cherington era. So I'm excited about this trade. I hate losing Burrows. Burrows is going to pitch. Burrows is going to make an all-star team for Houston. I believe that. But you have to give stuff up to get stuff.
You want to do a hot takes video again? Get that on there?
Oh, yeah.
All-star?
Yeah.
I mean, hey, Mike Burrows has some really good stuff, too. That change-up, that's going to be missed. But, yeah, let's kick it over to you.
Yeah, so this was the trade of the offseason for the Pirates. This started, I think this is what actually started the offseason. Password trade was great, don't get me wrong, but this was the trade that got fans excited. Now, it's definitely not a trade for the future. It's a trade this is the first trade we've seen Ben Cherington make, basically, that is, we need to win now. Like, this is the first sense of urgency trade I've seen Ben Cherington do as a Pirates GM. I think all of us Pirates fans can agree with that. You're only getting Brandon Lowe for 1 year.
Yeah,
because I don't see maybe there's a world where he resigns, maybe they extend him, who knows? But that's probably not coming until later if it does happen. Now he also has injury issues. He's had some concerns in the past. That's worrisome. And you gave up Burrows to get him. You have to give to get, and you have to live with it. Jake Mangum, he's a guy. Well, also I want to add this about Lowe really quick. When's the last time you've been confident enough to have a 30 home run hitter in your lineup as a Pirates fan? And that was years ago.
Yeah.
This first time in the Ben Cherington era, I'm confident,
right.
Oh my gosh, the Pirates have a guy that can hit you 30 plus home runs.
That was closer to MVP Kutch than not even on a baseball team Kutch.
And I think Lau's going to be really solid. And we all made this point, he's a lot smaller in person than what, it's kind of one of my biggest takeaways. This guy has all this power and he's really tiny. It's kind of interesting to look at. But Jake Mangum, we brought it up before. I don't have much on it, to add on him on top. He's scrappy. He's going to give you those Sean. I like to say Sean Rodriguez, Josh Harrison mixed vibes.
I like that. I mean, hopefully he's not punching in the Gatorade coolers.
Contact and good defense. That's all you can ask for.
He said it best. I touch the ball and run.
Yep.
And we've seen that.
And we've seen it a lot already this spring. So yeah, I'm excited. Yeah, I'm excited about this trade. It's like you said this is the first trade that Ben Cherington's made where the people are actually going to be on the major league roster, right?
All three of them.
Yeah. So often we've made trades. We get Billy Cook, we get Nick York, and they go right to AAA, and we keep wondering when they're coming up, and we keep wondering, and it doesn't happen. These guys are going to be, in the lineup. They're going to play on day 1, day 2, that sort of thing. Brandon Lowe. He is tiny, but track record.
Yeah.
Right? If he was coming from AAA, I'd be like, oh no.
And I want to add something interesting about this trade. Mason Montgomery, we were watching him. Actually, it wasn't. He came in yesterday against Columbia, I think it was. But the day before, I was sitting behind home plate just watching the game. They were playing the Rays. I had an older Rays fan behind me. He had his cane and Walker with him. And we had a nice, funny conversation. He taps my shoulder. He's like, "Who's tapping my shoulder?" It's this guy. He's like, "Man, you don't know what it feels like to be a Rays fan." I was like, "Sir, are you sure about that?" But we were talking. He was like,
"You're right, we don't."
It was when Mangum stole. It was right after Mangum stole second. It went into the outfield, caused chaos in bases. Alika Williams comes in to score. And he's like, "We're going to miss that in Tampa." Because there's a lot of Tampa fans there. And they were all cheering for Jake Mangum. They're all looking at Brandon Lowe, too. But, it was always, let's go, Jake. He seems like that type of player that they all gravitated towards. And we've all kind of reiterated the point. He's going to be the type of player that I think Pittsburgh Pirates fans kind of just gravitate towards. Is that likable personality. But the takeaway from hearing a fan tell you we lost the trade is a great feeling as a Pirates fan, because we've had our history with the Tampa Bay Rays, and it's always we lost trade. It's always we made a trade with the Rays. Well, who'd they get? Yeah, it's not who did we get, it's who did they get.
Right.
And hearing a fan that's been around definitely for a while, seen some things, saw his team make a World Series.
That guy's 40 years younger.
Even though it was the COVID year, you got to see that team make the World Series. You got to see some prime Brandon Lowe too, and he was like, "Man, all we got was a bunch of prospects." I mean, they're pretty solid prospects from the Astros, don't get me wrong. But, the fact that a fan is not excited about this trade, it makes it like this is a great feeling to have. And he was giving me like some insights, like you're gonna like this about Mangum, you're gonna like this about Lau. He thought Mason Montgomery was a big loss in that trade because he really liked what he could do. Now I'm not really as high on Montgomery as maybe some people are. I want to see it first because I know last year wasn't the greatest year for Montgomery, but like seeing what he's done before, like the stuff looks pretty good as well, and he has a lot of heat on his like fastball as well. So I'm intrigued by it. I want to see it though with the Pirates. I want to see what he can do, but I believe in what he can do. But yeah, the big piece of this trade is definitely Brandon Lau over like Mangum over your Montgomerys, because Mangum, let's be honest, is an older type. He's older, towards 30s. He's an older rookie, basically. Brandon Lau, you need to hope you're getting the best out of Brandon Lau, and I mean, I think we will. I hope we do.
And like we're talking about, playing all three of them playing quite effectively, right? I mean, like Mangum's hitting, making contact, doing all the dirty stuff. So is Brandon Lau. But also, like we've been talking about the vibes, and I think that's something that like they're instilling with this team. Like you're getting those guys that come from organizations that have won, right? We're starting with the Tampa Bay Rays because, of course, passwords come with the Red Sox, but like he's been in AAA at the time, right? This is like the first one. It's like okay, they've been in organizations that know how to do it. Brandon Lau has been on teams that have won the division 2 years in the NL or AL East. And that's
Brandon Lau played in the World Series,
right? So
help.
They're coming in here and they're trying to instill things in this organization. They're talking about the vibes we're doing, and then you move on to the next one, right? So again, I think we always talked about too is like this team's gonna have to make a trade. They're gonna have to force someone to come on here. They're not really gonna entice free agents to come play for them. It's probably gonna have to be in trade. So that's where the Brandon Lau one comes to play.
This offseason,
and then
right?
That's what I'm saying.
We had conversations with these free agents. We were in on
right. And we were like, was the Jhostynxon Garcia trade enough to entice someone?
Right.
And
so
is the Brandon Lau one enough?
So they make that trade, and it's like okay, like you mentioned, now fans are getting excited, but now it's also kind of making baseball looking and say, okay, what are the Pirates up to? And then within the next week, they'll go ahead and make the 2-year, $29 million deal to Ryan O'Hearn. And that was like, okay, now maybe they actually are serious. Because you could just also do that trade and say, we're done.
Yeah.
You could have done it. You could have sold that.
We've seen that
but
before.
they said, no, we still are going to spend some more money.
Right? They traded for Garcia and then added Lau. And I'm like, okay, now they can say they did something.
Right.
They made improvements. Plus, when you consider Mangum, saying like, well, there's 2 outfielders they brought in, an all-star second baseman, a potentially terrific reliever. We've had a good offseason. It would have still been the best offseason that Ben had ever had.
We saw that with the Horwitz move last year.
Right.
It was Horwitz and Tommy Pham.
And that's how you gotta sell. Like, hey, we believe in this guy is the answer. You saw what happened. So like they didn't stop there, and they went out and spent real money. Right, close to $30 million in a free agent, Ryan O'Hearn, who it's funny he mentioned Spencer Horwitz. He kind of is just like the upgraded Spencer Horwitz.
Right.
Yeah.
But like I will take 9 of Spencer Horwitz's on this team, any team, really. Right. What he did last year is I know it's not a ton of power, but like he's just a good hitter. Yeah. And ironically, he also plays really good first base.
Good first base.
But we don't know where he's gonna really play. It seems like outfield. But regardless, like they went out there and they got the free agent. So now Ryan O'Hearn, right? We know what he's done in the past. I mean, he was a solid prospect. Didn't really click at first. Then it starts clicking with the Orioles. He made the All-Star last year also.
Right. Another All-Star.
Right. Got the trade of the Padres, now a free agent, now the Pirates. So, again, another guy who's performing, but we're also still talking vibes. And, like, here's a guy that's coming and said, like, I look at this team, and it's like I'm getting the sense of what we were doing in Baltimore. And, again, that was a team that won 100 games. Not to say this team's going to win 100 games. I don't believe that. But, again, like, you're getting – perception of like hey, there's something that is actually brewing here.
Yeah, and the Ryan O'Hearn signing might probably be one of my favorite moves the Pirates did this offseason. It's like,
of course, because Spencer Horwitz 2.0.
Yeah,
the leader
of course,
the horse train.
Yes. So it's funny, like I was seeing like people like MLB kind of like these were the moves of the offseason, whatever. They didn't use the Brandon Lau trade as the Pirates' best deal. It was Ryan O'Hearn, and I was like, you got in the span of a week. Around Christmas time, the Pirates brought in 2 All-Stars. Now they weren't just like they were All-Stars back in 2021 like we've seen in the past. It was 2 All-Stars last season that have had productive years. Now Ryan O'Hearn isn't probably going to hit you 30 home runs, but he hit you probably upwards of 20 in his best. I don't think he's hit 20. He hit 18 last year. I think he can definitely have that upside with the Pirates, and he signed for 2 years. Now, sure, next year maybe we have a lockout. Maybe that's part of it. But, like, if there's no lockout, he's a Pirate next year, unless something horrible happens with this team and it all falls apart.
Sure.
Which I hope not.
And even at that, he still might be a Pirate.
But yeah, even then, but like still, like they went out, gave a guy $14 million per year. We have not seen that. The highest before that, I think, was Aroldis Chapman. Was that 10? And then
10 and a
Ozuna
half,
beat that
10.
later. So like 10.5 was your previous high. Then you topped that with 14 per, and you went out and got a guy that you were actually linked to. It was not the Pirates are in on. It wasn't Schwarber. It wasn't the Schwarber situation, which I didn't think they were ever getting Schwarber. It was a fun ride though to go on for a couple weeks, see all the fans having fun with it. But it was like you see, the Pirates are interested in Ryan O'Hearn. The Pirates interested in Jorge Polanco, and it's like, they missed out. They missed out on Polanco. Can they get O'Hearn? Probably not. And then you're at work and it says, oh my gosh, they actually made it happen. And it was that initiative. And maybe the Brandon Lowe trade kind of sparked that. And like hearing Ryan O'Hearn, he showed up the Pirates Fest via Zoom and just kind of talked about like the excitement. Like,
he wanted to make sure he was there, even though like the weather was an issue, but he wanted to make sure he was present.
And he talked about like he was talking to Don Kelly about it, coming to the Pirates. And immediately after, he basically called his agent and said, I want to be a Pirate. He seemed to like the vibes. And like that's kind of like the effect Don Kelly I've seen has had on this team. Like you brought up yesterday with Cody. He basically came over to all of us and said hi. Got a fist bump from him. Very affirmative to like fist bump. But like you can tell them I wasn't here last year for Derek Shelton's last spring training. From what you guys have said and what other fans and like players have basically seemed to have said about it, the vibes are a lot different with Don Kelly at the helm. But like I'm excited about Ryan
fist bump
O'Hearn.
us last year.
Yeah. No. But I also understand why he might not.
Right.
No, I'm excited about what Ryan O'Hearn can do, and I like the leadership he could bring to this team.
Yeah. And like, let's talk about like leadership. Again, we've been here for 2 weeks, talking about the vibes and stuff. Like, what are you seeing that Ryan O'Hearn's like maybe helping for this team?
Well, I mean, he's a professional hitter. He's a professional baseball player. He's immediately said, I'll play anywhere you want me to play. He's like, okay, all right. I've been a DH and a first baseman. I'm happy to go to the outfield. And he's looked pretty good. I mean, it's early. He's not had a lot of chances, but he hasn't done anything, terrible.
But you're also the one that brought up, Mangum playing. Like, you're going to credit for him. Anyone can play outfield right now. So, like you're saying, like you're seeing some positive things from him in the outfield right now.
Yeah, and it just, he's again, he's families here. And every time you see him, every chance he has, he's got a newborn. He's holding that newborn. And it's just like, how can you?
I know. That's why he won't walk by and give us an interview.
right. It's been hard to get him in the interview because
he's using that family as a crutch.
Yeah.
But no, just like you said, that's the other thing too. Like
cheering for that guy, who, it's just I don't know.
Right, like you said, like he signed with us, and it was literally like a week later he had the newborn.
Yeah,
and then he's here in spring training.
Yeah, he's here. It's again, it seems so silly to be talking, just about vibes, but it's also good vibes and good production.
Right.
It's spring production, and we know, guys have had lights out springs and immediate. I think Jack and Henry both looked fantastic last year in spring, and then did not look very good in the regular season. So you just can't put any stock in spring production. But these are it's a little easier when it's a professional hitter, a guy who's had a track record of success. We signed 2 all-stars from last year. It's like Nathan said. These weren't guys that were. It's not Rowdy Tellez, who was an all-star 4 years ago and is coming off 4 bad years. It's not Tommy Pham, who had last season. His last good season was in 2019 or something.
Right.
These guys that had good seasons last year, and there's no reason to think that they're not going to at least come close to replicating those seasons, right? Brandon Lowe might hit 27 home runs instead of 31. That's fine, right? Because that's dramatically more than we got out of second base.
When's the last time we've had that?
Right, exactly. That's what I'm saying. We haven't had a 30 home run hitter in a while. We had 1 20 home run hitter last year, right? It was 21, 22?
Barely.
Yeah, barely.
Who was on pace to hit like 40. Let's also put that out there.
It was like, going to lead the league in on-base percentage and home runs, and then Derek Shelton got fired, and it all went down. So, yeah, again, remember how frustrated we were last year with so many Paul Skeens games where he would give up a run or 2 runs and then lose. I don't see that happening this year, right? I mean, maybe the biggest beneficiary of all this is going to be Paul Skeens. Paul Skeens is going to pitch as great as he always does, and he's not going to have a 10-win season.
So what you're saying is Cy Young MVP. I'm sorry, it's just Paul Skeens MVP.
I'll say Cy Young. It's hard for MVP.
I heard MVP.
Hey, we had a fan say MVP yesterday.
Because, you got Kyle Schwarber
It's not hard. Who's Kyle Schwarber?
Yeah, exactly.
Guy who plays for Philly.
Yeah, and Ohtani. But listen, I'm on board. Look, he might win. Paul Skeens might win 20 games. Right? You don't see that a lot anymore. Who was the last Pirates 20-game winner?
Let's not go there.
I think it was John Smiley.
You might not have been born yet, Doug.
Yeah. I think it was John Smiley. I'm not, which would have been in '92. So yeah.
So then, right, this signing happens, and now we're all getting excited. Okay, like what's the next move? What's the next move? They're in on every third baseman you can imagine, think of, and then just silence.
Sad
silence.
Dead
No
air.
Okamoto.
And then the Kutch thing comes up, and it's like, what's going to happen? And then they kind of surprisingly, there's this free agent waiting out there that doesn't have a good fit, but he's clearly the best hitter that's available, and the Pirates do it. And like you mentioned, like it's real money too to get him. It's Marcell Ozuna. Now I understand he's a little bit different. He's not the all-star coming off of last year. He had a down year last year, but even that down year, he's leading the team in home runs.
Right.
Even that down year is helping offensively. But this is also a guy who's just removed from being top 5 MVP. This isn't just a guy who
it wasn't
he's
5
just
years
an
ago.
all-star.
Right. Last year he was hurt and had a down year. His prior 2 years were 39 home runs and 40 home runs.
Right.
A guy who was getting MVP votes
As a DH.
Who, I mean, last year he would have been the best hitter on the team. He had 240. I think he had, 17 home runs, 20, something like that. I mean, he would have been the best hitter on the team.
Yeah.
Except, I guess Spencer Harwitz could have given him, but
but outside him.
Yeah. But yeah, and again, we're talking vibes. People are just drawn to this guy. You watch him when he walks, out of the clubhouse or whatever, out of the thing. I mean, players are running up to him, like it just wanting to talk to him, wanting to be around him, and he's looked good this spring. He looks healthy.
Let's go there because I want to get your viewpoint on this because again, you have been here the longest. That is something you hear. Let's just put the numbers aside because again, we're kind of revisiting this. We know what he can do in his production in a sense, but now that you're seeing him in real life, you're seeing the interactions, and we know there's a guy there, Oneil Cruz, that you're hoping like if this team's going to go somewhere. We mentioned that too. Like it starts with Ryan Reynolds and Oneil Cruz. Still, you can bring these guys, but if those two aren't moving anywhere, you're still not really going far with this club, right? Oneil Cruz, you're hearing a lot of good stuff this offseason. Yes, he's working out with another former Ray defensively in the outfield, but there seems to be a lot of gravitation to here. So again, like taking out the numbers, we're talking about impact. We're talking about stuff like now we're seeing this 2 weeks in. Do you see this great impact that Ozuna is bringing that isn't numbers related that could really benefit this team?
Again, it's hard to judge that without being in the clubhouse, but it seems like it. It seems like that. Again, that he has an impact, and people say, "Oh, Oneil Cruz should not need a mentor." I don't know.
Fair criticism,
right? Yeah, it's fair criticism, but guess what? If he needs one, he needs one, and if he needs one, the Pirates need to provide him one. Right? He is your highest upside player, maybe except other than Connor now. So they went out and got him a mentor, right? And you can be old and crusty and complain about that. My day, blah, blah, blah. I don't care if he's going to help. And I love what I've seen from Oneil Cruz. I don't know how much of that is a direct influence of Marcell Ozuna. I don't know how much of it's from Kevin Kiermaier. Is that who he's working with? Yeah, Kevin Kiermaier. I don't care where it comes from. I want results, right? We can talk about all the other stuff. Oneil Cruz's approach has been spectacular this year. He's not swinging for the fences. He recently hit that 3-run home run. He's just going with the pitch. He's making contact. He's getting walked. He's getting singles to first base. He's almost automatically over to second. He's been knocked in by O'Hearn. He's been knocked in by Ozuna. I'm here for it.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
This is like I don't care if he only hits 20 home runs again, this year, but he scores 120 runs because he's getting on base. He's stealing bases and he's letting the big boys bring him in.
Right.
And before he was easy to pitch around. Right, you didn't have to pitch to him. You didn't have to pitch to Reynolds.
Oh, who's behind him?
Yeah.
Right.
I can't remember. Right?
There you go.
It was Jack. It was Henry. It was
exactly.
Yeah. It was sad. That's what it was.
But,
so now, if he's back, especially if they're playing him in the leadoff position, he's got 5 guys. There's 5 more guys that could knock him in.
The lineup's so much better.
I still find it hard to believe. It's not what we've had. It's not what we've had during the Ben Cherington era. And suddenly it's like, you're not – we've made it so easy on opposing pitchers. You know, for 3 seasons I've been joking about how every journeyman pitcher, every guy off the disabled list, every guy up from the minor leagues has had the best career of his start against the Pirates.
Right.
You know, more guys have had their career high strikeouts against the Pirates than any other team. More guys have gone the longest amount of innings. They've gone all this sort of stuff. It's not happening this year. This year, you maybe at the very end of the lineup, you might be able to navigate it a little easier. But it used to be from 4, 5, 6 on. It was just
game over.
Yeah, you're easy, right? You know, so yeah, it's. I don't know how much to credit Marcell Ozuna, but I love what I'm seeing from Cruz. I love how the other players are reacting to him. You're one of your questions for the hot take.
Yeah.
Right? Tim Reeves, who's been down here almost the whole time that we've been, is a great fan of ours. And, he says that he's going to provide more leadership and production than Andrew McCutchen. And that's a hot take.
And that's something I want to say. Like, again, like we're talking about leadership and stuff. I think we're seeing it. Yes, I would prefer Oneil Cruz not to have one, but if that's what he needs, that's great. But I think the thing too about this is you're not finding it in just a glue guy, right? You're not finding it just like, well, he's going to provide leadership, but we're not expecting anything offensively. Like, it's also a guy who can play that's providing that leadership to him, right? So I'm going to turn to you, right? I know he had a down year. What is it about Marcell Ozuna that makes you think that he could be closer, not going to be, but closer to 2024 version than 2025?
I just believe he can do it because he can play multiple games.
I don't need to hear the Yasmani. You just gotta believe.
No, he's been an Iron. He's played a full 162 game season just a few years ago. Like, he's a guy and even with that bad hip last year or whatever the injury or something like that,
hip.
He still hit them over 20 home runs. And it's funny. I did some math a couple weeks ago on my Twitter. It was like you add O'Hearn, Lowe, and Ozuna's home runs together. I'm pretty sure the number was a good old number 69. Nice. But still, the Pirates as a team hit a total 117 home runs. If you do the math right, I think it was about 59% of those would have been hit by just the 3 additions that they brought in. Brandon Lau's 31 would have just tied the Cardinals for 29th place.
There it is.
So that right there adds you a lot of home runs that you did not have. I'll add this about Ozuna, though. Doug brought up the leadership towards Cruz and stuff. I remember I had Noah Hiles on my YouTube channel couple months ago. We were talking about Cruz and what he needs, and he brought up Latin leadership from the Dominican, right. And that's something the Pirates haven't had hitter wise since Carlos Santana. Right. They've had it with the pitchers with Aroldis Chapman. You had it with, and then Dennis Santana definitely has been that leader right now.
Yeah,
the pitcher staff and the Dominican wise and Spanish speaking wise. Hitter wise, you haven't really had much of that besides Carlos Santana.
We haven't had much of English speaking hitters. We haven't much of Italian speaking hitters. We have not had any Korean speaking hitters. But Klingon, maybe, I don't know, but we have not had a lot of hitters.
But it's very interesting though. They bring in Marcell Ozuna and Cruz is immediately working with him and wanting to learn from him. And sure, Ozuna's done some things in the past that might make some fans think the wrong way. And I remember Doug, Cody, and I talked about it. We're not one to tell you how to fan. I don't think it's in our right to tell you how you should react. You're allowed to hate him. You're allowed to like him. I'm going to be rooting for the guy to help this team win. And that's kind of all I care about the Pirates. Pirates by themselves, I want this team to win. If he helps this team win, it's a good situation to have. And I'm excited to see what he can do. Doug brought up, and it was kind of my first takeaway from spring training, watching him walk out in the first BP group. It was him, Brian Reynolds, Jake Mangum. Now, Jake Mangum wasn't hitting home runs like Ozuna, but you also had O'Hearn and Brandon Lowe. But the next group that came over was Alika Williams. Actually, Mangum was in the Alika Williams group, but then Rafael Flores was over there too.
Big boy.
They're all going over to just talk to Marcell Ozuna. Marcell Ozuna's presence, and we bring up Cody, the golden retriever, the Pirates might look at him like that because they all gravitate towards him. And he's even talking to some fans that speak Spanish as well. He was talking to a fan yesterday from a Colombian fan. It was very interesting to watch. It's just the players seem to love him. And that's a type of leader that I think the Pirates desperately needed on this team. And he's had a lot of big league experience. He's been good in the big leagues. He's not one of those washed up veterans. A man over there thinks he's still washed by the name Alex Stumpf. Not to call him out.
Shots.
Oh, man.
Not the ones we're all wanting right now.
Yeah. But I don't think he's washed up.
Yeah.
Like, I think it's fair.
I think that is fair.
It's a fair argument to have. He had a bad hip last year, but like he can still be a productive hitter. And the fact of the matter is, even with that injured hip, he was or would have been a top hitter on the Pittsburgh Pirates last year. And that just shows how bad the hitting was. But like still, he was not a bad hitter in Major League Baseball. He still hit over, it was like 240, 241 around there.
Yeah.
Still competent enough to be league average.
Right.
And that's all the Pirates needed. League average offense. That's all we asked for last year, isn't it? Like, I remember you guys on postgame.
No, not even
Every
league
single
average.
time.
I mean, really, they have to be just below.
They
They
just
just need to
decent.
be bad, not very, very, very
I mean,
bad.
it's been our mantra. If Henry could just be average, if Brian Hayes could just be average, if now we've got guys that have been above average.
All stars.
Yeah, all stars, MVP candidates.
votes.
Right. It's a good
I
vibe.
know. I'm excited to see what Ozuna can do, though. I'm excited. I hope he can work with Cruz. I know Cruz is going to the WBC. I'm
Yeah.
excited to see what he can do there, learning from some of those guys. Because that was the thing with the home run derby. He wasn't good after the home run derby. And I'm a big.
Well, he
Cruz
wasn't
fan.
also
wasn't-
good before the
yeah,
home run
yeah,
derby.
for a month
It
and
all
a half
fell
before.
apart.
I just say that because I don't
Fell
want
apart mid-May
to
for
put the
him.
home run derby on
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
Yes.
So if he were to participate, I'm not going to say, oh, well, that could be a problem. He wasn't
Like,
good before that either.
One of that no one's really talking about, like he's going to get to talk to, is Nelson Cruz, who's managing the Dominican Republic in the WBC.
also
that's
well respected.
That is a very well-respected Major League Baseball player, Nelson Cruz. You're going to be a teammate with Vlad Jr. And we didn't plan in talking about Oneil Cruz today, so I'll just cut it off there. But still, Ozuna, I'm excited to see what he can do to help this team, not just Cruz, but maybe some of the other Spanish-speaking players. Maybe talk to an ND Rodriguez. It might not be his position of excellence to be a catcher, but still, talk to the guy. Is
Well,
everything good? How are we
We're much
doing
more
today?
concerned about how these guys hit.
Yes.
It's like Andy needs to hit.
Yes.
So Ozuna's a good guy to talk to about
Yes,
that.
and that's
right?
what I love about it.
He can talk to someone else. He can talk to Fort about catching.
Yeah, right.
He can talk to Jordan.
Yeah.
There's other people for him to talk to about there. Jacob Stallings in the organization, but Ozuna's a good guy to talk to about how to hit.
For sure. So I think, again, right now, 2 weeks into this, what we're seeing is a lot of good vibes. Looking back at these trades, seems like they're already paying some dividends. Yes, we still want to see what happens for the spring training, and of course, what also matters once opening day starts. But again, right now, good vibes, good things happening. Let's continue to see what the Pirates can do.
Yeah, I'm
So-
excited.
All right. Well, guys, let's get out of here. Once again, I want to thank The Cut for having us. Come out here, great food, good time. And we'll see you guys tomorrow because the Pirates have another game. So 12 o'clock we'll be live. We'll see you then. Bye-bye.
See you guys.
All right, that wraps up this episode of North Shore 9. Thanks so much for tuning in. Whether you're listening on the podcast or catching us on YouTube, if you enjoyed the show, please give this video a thumbs up and don't forget to hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. It really helps us grow. And if you're listening on the podcast, a quick review goes a long way in helping others find the show. Plus, be sure to tell a friend about us. There's always room for more here in the NS9 community. And for those looking to support us a little more, consider joining our Patreon, become an MVP member, and get exclusive perks while helping us continue to bring you more of the Pirates content you love. Thanks again for all your support, and let's go Bucks.